Okay, great. All right, so you are a bunch of professionals. I know that. And so I talking to you about volunteering this evening could be just something on the side. But guess what? This is just so important that we all know that volunteering is almost another job, you know, it's almost a full-time job. Take it from me. But there are such great rewards at the end. Now, if you see me anything volunteering, I want to help. When and where? I'll be there. Of course I can. You know, and if it is to be, it's up to me to be this volunteer who will go places and do all kinds of stuff. Now, what does volunteering mean? And so it says here, I got this straight from the internet. Volunteering is a voluntary act of an individual or a group. And you see all these group people here, you have young, old, just name it in my group here. And this group is freely giving time and labor for community service. Many volunteers are specifically trained in the areas they work, and you guys have been trained. Your course has been maybe what, 3 to 4 years, and you're now going to be out there in the community as financial persons, right? So they say medicine, education, or just emergency rescue. Others serve on an as needed basis, such as a response to a natural disaster. So there are some people who sit and wait to be asked to be volunteers. So when we have a hurricane and they send out a little thing, you know, we need volunteers downtown to come and do some stuff for us. But what it really is saying, that you're coming to give free labor. Anybody wants to do free laboring? Yeah, of course, you know, you give some free labor because you never know what is in the pipeline for you later on. So I just want to say my journey as a volunteer, I really started at prep school, you know. I was always volunteering to read to the students. I love to read aloud to persons. And I was always acting like a big sister. And because I liked to see the faces of these children, you know, how they're satisfied when I read to them or so, and their faces just light up, right? At high school, I didn't stop. I always wanted to participate in any and everything. I always loved an audience, and this is why I'm loving you this evening, because you're my audience. And the 88 of you, I feel good to be talking to you. I used to clean up around the school at high school, you know. I was a class monitor, and I loved just feeling like I'm doing something and I'm making others happy. I just loved that. I always volunteered to work in various teams, Girl Guides, track and field, netball, even though it's, you know, it's something that's very serious when you play these games for your school, but I volunteered. Nobody bent my hands to go and do it. I just volunteered to do that. Sorry about that. What is the common thread here? What do you think is the common thread? I was always called to serve, always serving others, always, always. All right. So we are going to have a conversation now. All right. So don't let me do all the talking, please. I don't want to do all the talking. Now, who on this platform has a special talent? See the guys over there, you have some artists, you have someone who does photography, gardening, and just dancing. And so there's a fisherman right there too. Who here, and I want somebody to answer up and tell me, what is your special talent? I want two persons to tell me, what is your special talent. Are you all seeing me? Are you able to see me? Is my video on?
Yes, we're here, Nancy.
And you're seeing me too. I want to make sure that you're all seeing me. So let's talk now, man. Who has special talents? Nobody? You just go to school?
Sorry, good evening, everyone. Accounting Seminar 2021. 2022, Shamanisha Wilmot here from the Internal Audit Committee. Okay. I do have a special talent, and I believe that my special talent is ministry through dancing. That is something I do enjoy doing, and that is something that I do a lot.
Wow, you do a lot for dancing at church, and so you're serving. This is volunteer. You volunteer to do this, so you're serving your congregation. You're speaking to them about Jesus through the talent, the ministry of dance. Wonderful. That's a very, very special talent because you can reach so many persons. One more person I want to hear from. One more person. Come on, you're not shy persons. Don't let me have to call out names. Tamika Thompson, my namesake. What's your special talent?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My special talent is I'm very good at sewing.
You are. Listen, and don't take it lightly though. You're good at sewing. But I'm not saying you're going to use your talent and give it away, because guess what? You can become a millionaire by just designing and making nice clothes. So that's your very special talent. And I'm sure at some point, you're going to want to share that talent with someone else and not even charging them for it. Maybe a student who is at a girl's home or so. Now, how did you feel when you did something for someone and was not paid in return? Had any of you ever used your talent and, you know, like for example, is anybody here that bakes? Anyone bakes? And you have baked something? Or even have you made anything for, who just spoke with me just now? Thompson, Miss Thompson, have you sold anything for somebody and you weren't really paid for it? How did that make you feel? Miss Thompson?
I'm still here. Yes, I've made things for people before, and it was actually a good feeling, though I was not paid.
Right. You felt a feeling of accomplishment, and when you saw that person, you could say, wow, I did something for her. I volunteered to do it. She didn't really ask me. I didn't charge her. All right. So that's great. That's really, very great. Now, I realized my talent, my gift, I call it a gift from God, was to share with others less fortunate and help them to live better lives. And because of that, so, you know, all the time when I was doing this at school and maybe at a club, we used to have club meetings on a Friday evening when I was growing up, Bible classes and so on, and we used to do things. But when I became an adult in the working world, I didn't stop. I continued to share and wanted an avenue to do more. So one evening, some friends of mine said they were going down to the Pegasus. And I said to them, well, the Pegasus sounds like a big name place, you know, and money, this sounds like money, but I'll come along. And when I went with them, they were starting a club called Kiwanis. Kiwanis, an all-female Kiwanis club right here in Jamaica. So my friend introduced me to Kiwanis International, and the rest is history. Now, you know that Kiwanis International is a service organization. It's a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. Our organization is over 106 years old. Okay, if you see, you're seeing my screen. serving the children of the world. And that's what we do. We do a lot. But before I go into my Kiwanis journey, are there any persons online here who have already volunteered? Now, you know that volunteering is giving of yourself freely to help others. Do we have any volunteers here online with us this evening? And I don't want you to be ashamed to speak up. Speak up, because this is how we're going to know more about each other. The eight of you that's online surely would like to hear. Yes, I see Shanika's hand up. Shanika, yes, go ahead. Unmute and go ahead.
I was just acknowledging the question that you asked about volunteering. You'd like to know how I volunteer?
Yes.
Okay. My church tends to do a lot of outreach ministries in terms of going into the community and giving out care packages, or just providing meals and just taking it out into the communities. So that's one of the ways that I volunteer my time.
Wonderful. That sounds like an arm of Kiwanis. Great. Thank you so much, Shanika. Okay, Tamoya. Tamoya would like to tell us something.
Good evening, Miss Thompson.
Good evening, Tamoya.
I have volunteered to teach a class for an entire term.
Wow.
I was teaching for 8 months and my period had ended. And so the students, you know, I had formed a bond with them and I didn't want to leave. So I volunteered for the remainder of the school year to continue to assist in teaching them.
Wonderful. And are you thinking of going back to it after you have graduated? Are you going to go back and continue?
No, because it was a long time ago, more than 10 years ago that happened. But outside of that, I've volunteered for a number of other things.
Okay, great. So you're not discontinuing your volunteerism. You will continue. That's really, I need to hear from a male. I want to hear from a male, because they keep saying that our males are marginalized and they don't do this and they don't do that. Let me hear from a male member online. Come on, let me hear from a male member.
Good evening.
Good evening. And who is this? Introduce yourself.
I'm Kiwana Henry, professionalism supervisor.
Great.
All right.
What you want to tell us?
All right, I have the hobby of making memes, funny captions with photos and videos. So I volunteer is that I spread laughter.
Oh.
Others, yeah.
It's like doing cartoons.
So yeah.
So you make us laugh, and we need that, you know, we need laughter in our soul. So you see, you have a talent there that after you leave here, you can do that on the side, you know that. And you can go further, you know, and maybe later down I'll be seeing your name flashing across the screen on TV with you have produced some animated thing. Yeah, man, that's great. That's good. Thank you. I need to hear from another male.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jordan Anderson. I volunteered for about a year and a half to 2 years at my primary school. I cooked in the canteen for them. I teach for them. I used to work in the accounts department for them. I used to put on events for them and sometimes host the events for them.
What?
I used to do a lot of stuff for them.
Wow.
So
that sounds like you could be a volunteer for Kiwanis, man. So when you leave here, there's a Kiwanis club on campus. You sound as if you really, and it looks as if you enjoy doing it. You enjoy doing it, right?
It gives me pleasure. It gives me pleasure.
It gives you pleasure. Tell us how you feel when you cook and something tastes good and the people say, what? Is you that man? How do you feel?
It's not is you do that makes me feel good. It's just looking at the students and seeing them enjoying the meal. That
Wonderful. So it is like when I volunteer at the home for the aged and a little old lady come and hug me and she said, Lord, God bless you, my child. God bless you. May you never go hungry and whatever. And you just feel, you just know you really helped someone. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
And you
Just
can
what
only...
sorry about that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And you can only get that feeling if you try it, if you volunteer and you get out there. You can only know about that once you get into the whole community, wherever, a church, wherever it is. Great, it's good to hear those stories. Now, I was telling you that the organization that brought this whole, made it bigger and better for me was the Kiwanis International. I'm a part of it, and as you heard, my CV said how long I've been serving, over 32 years, and just doing simple volunteer work. No pay. It's hard work, you know. Don't even forget, it's hard work. But because you're so dedicated, you really don't feel the impact of this hard work because persons you're serving are just so satisfied and want to just, and you feel you want to just keep doing. And so I'll just tell you a little about the Kiwanis International Movement. Incidentally, I should have had, there was another Kiwanian of mine who should have been online, who is a very new person in my club, but she couldn't come on. So I will just have to do all the talking. Now, who is familiar with Kiwanis? Who is familiar with Kiwanis? Just say I. Am I hearing some voices saying it?
I.
Okay, so persons are familiar. You are familiar with Kiwanis. And our motto is serving the children of the world. We serve, we're servants. I'm a big time servant leader. Service, always going out there and doing, and always, and so is your manager, general manager, I'm not sure what is his title, James. He also is a servant leader. And so we do a lot of service work, and our membership is 537. So call it's about 600 now or 700 now. And within this membership, we have youth members like yourself. And you know, the youth and adult totals about 326,000 persons. Okay, we have a lot of clubs, island-wide, worldwide, over 9,000 by now, adult clubs, and we have youth clubs. And they do a lot of service also. All right, so in 1 year, Kiwanis clubs devote more than 19 million hours of service. Can you imagine? That's working and working and working. Kiwanis sponsors adults and youth leadership programs, and they conduct over 152,000 projects per year. And this is no joke, you know. When I say we do projects, we do lots and lots of projects. We also raise a lot of funds. We raise money to do the projects. And so we raise over $133 million on an average to raise, to do projects for the less fortunate. So you see the impact. We go out there, we beg money from persons who can afford, and we turn around and use that money to help the less fortunate. And so that gives you a wonderful feeling. We impact children's lives, and we impact over 162,000. Okay, because we are stationed at about 85 nations in the geographic areas all over, we're worldwide. And if you really want to know more about Kiwanis, then you can log on to the kiwanis.org website and you will certainly learn a lot. If you look to your right-hand side of the slide, you will see that is a park that Kiwanis built, a Kiwanis Club overseas, built by Kiwanis, a children's park. I mentioned we feed the less fortunate. We work with persons living with disabilities. Now I'm going to pause here just to check out with you if you have been following the news. Have you been hearing much about Kiwanis working with persons living with disabilities? Has anyone on the platform heard about that? You're also busy studying and things, but you know that Jamaica, the disabled community is growing bigger and bigger. And we are trying to make life better for this community. And so a law has been passed on the 14th of February of this year. A Disability Act has been passed. So no longer will persons who are living with disability have to go out there and can't find a ramp to walk up, and they can't get jobs because they're physically or mentally disabled. That's not going to be any longer. So that is the most beautiful thing that has happened in our Kiwanis journey, to see that we have reached a stage where the disabled community are no, I wouldn't say toe-to-toe with the able, but eventually they will be out there working, living lives just like an able-bodied person. So we're so happy for that. Again, I ask the question, has anyone heard about this bill that has been passed, the act that has been passed for persons living with disabilities?
Yes, miss, I heard about it on.
You heard about it, because you do have some students at Utech who are living with disabilities and they're going about their business. Also over at university, UWI, they also are going about their business and just enjoying what God has provided for them. Okay, so we also build houses, we build schools, we work with the community centers. We are just very, very, very busy persons. It keeps us grounded, because look at me now, I am retired. And you know what my full-time job really is? Kiwanis and church. My volunteer job is Kiwanis. And I also volunteer at church for many, many things, as it was said in my CV. And this keeps me grounded, this keeps me young, this keeps me happy. And so I wouldn't give this up for anything in the world. I would not. Now, when it comes to volunteerism, you work for a cause. You don't work for an applause. Do you know you have persons who do things and they just do this because they know that somebody is looking and it looks good to do. And yeah, they feel like, yeah, man, I've arrived. And you must clap them because they have done this. True volunteers do not do that. True volunteers work without even being noticed. They don't want any notice be given to them. And the Bible speaks to that also. You must not go on the rooftop and say what you have done because you want an applause. The Lord sees it and he knows. And so you will be your recompense will be with him there in heaven. So don't do work for an applause. Just work. Just work. When you volunteer, you are not paid in money, or you're not even recognized. You are recognized sometimes, but it's not all the time that you're recognized. Has anybody online ever done something and nobody even noticed? Nobody even said thank you? Anybody would like to share with us? Anyone would like to share? Have you ever done something and you figure, wow, I really put my heart and my soul in this. I volunteered to do this and yet nobody even came back and told me thanks? Let me hear from someone. No one? Have you ever, I don't know if you drive, but I know it happens to me all the time. But this is not really volunteering, but this is still something to speak about. You give somebody, say, okay, go ahead, you know, go ahead. And the person don't even toot their horn to thank you. I feel bad. I feel badly. And can you imagine where you're now working, toiling, and nobody says thanks? But guess what? You're paid in love. You know, because as one of your teammates said, she sows and she sowed. And what she really felt good about is that the person who she did it for really probably looked good in the garment she made and was happy for it. So you're paid back in love. And what more can you ask for? People may forget what you said. And people may also forget what you did. But guess what? They will never forget how you made them feel. And this comes back to the story where we said, you know, you go somewhere, and I think it was a young man who was saying the cooking of the food is not how he felt, but the smile that he saw on persons' faces having ate the food that he prepared. And so those are some of the feelings that you get in volunteering. Good feelings, no bad vibes. Any of the volunteers that are online, have you ever had a bad vibe? Have you ever felt like, chum, me can't bother? This is not for me. Me just give them a service or whatever. Have you ever felt that way?
Good evening, Mr. Son.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Well, my experience is not so much that they were, how should I put it? I don't want to say they were not grateful for it, but I remember one time I did a back to school treat in a community.
Back to school treat?
Yes, in a community. And after the treat ended, I was there. Well, majority of the persons did not know who the treat was being done by. They didn't know who was the financier in this case. So I was there. I was doing like everybody else would who is volunteering on the day to help me with the you know, ice cream and cake and so on and the packages.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing and I heard a parent said, "This must be a labor right effort. It can't be coming because we've never had this in this community."
Yes.
So it's not that they were not appreciative, but they have never had it before. And because that community was mainly PNP supporters, they're saying this has never been done by a PNP. So it must be a labor right who did this.
Can you imagine? And
so just to put it out there, I'm neither.
So how did you feel?
I was, in my mind, they were not being ungrateful. It was just a surprise to them, and to see the magnitude of what the treat had is something that they've never experienced. I felt good because they were telling me that no one has ever done this for us.
And so you felt great as a volunteer that day.
Yes.
You're on top of the moon.
I am telling you.
Yes, and you know, this is the feeling that you get. You know, you're not paid to do it. You're not even probably recognized. But when that person made that statement, it made you feel like, well, yes, you have done something good. So volunteering is also healthy for you, you know. It's healthy. It's something that can keep you going and going because you have a purpose and you want to do something. And you keep thinking, what would happen if I don't go? Have you ever, ones who are involved in church, have you ever stopped to think what would happen if the outreach programs at your church ceased? Can I tell you that during COVID, at my church, I go to St. Margaret's, at my church, we were not able to do a lot of the things that we would have wanted to do because of COVID. And it weighed heavily on most of us, honestly. It weighed heavily because we were not able to go and volunteer our time, our food, etc. to these persons. And when you go home, you're wondering, how did they manage? You know, how did they make it through the night without something to eat? And so volunteering keeps your mind going. You're constantly asking yourself questions, thinking about others. You put others first before yourself. And so, you know, it really is a wonderful thing to be a volunteer. As again, I say, it keeps you healthy. And people, as we said, people may forget what you said and people may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And this is a statement that has a lot of impact, and we must try to remember this. They never forget how it made them feel. When you went out there on that day and that lady said that never happened before, and no, you made it happen. I'm sure you were on the moon, over the moon. Again, no, volunteers are not paid, you know. Not because they're worthless, but guess what? They are priceless. We don't have enough volunteers in Jamaica because what's happening is that people are doing things for recognition. And if you ask someone to join a service club, we are very careful when we are interviewing to see if we can find out, this is not a paying job, you know. This is a job where you're going to be called on to do things on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and sometimes during the week. So it can get tedious volunteering, but you must know why you volunteered in the first place. And it is something that you want to do. Like for me, I grew up I was, as I said before, at prep school, right up to my adult life. I have been helping persons. I want to see somebody better. I may not have all the money in the world that I want to, because I always say if I had money, all the things that I would do, but thank God, I'm still able. And this is another thing, you don't have to have money to volunteer, you know, and we don't have to wait until there's a crisis to volunteer. You're walking on the street and you see somebody looking like they're hungry, and you can go volunteer to go in a store and buy crackers or juice and take it back. They will just feel so that, you know, as if, wow, today was the best day of their lives. And so I want you all to, I'm sorry I didn't have my young lady who is part of Kiwanis movement. And again, I say it's not only Kiwanis that you can volunteer through. You can volunteer through your church. You can volunteer through your community centers. You can volunteer through the Rotary, through the, I think there's another, Lions are good volunteers also, and Optimists. And we, as Kiwanians, we work well with all of those persons. We do service work together because in the end, we are doing something for the community and for persons less fortunate. Martin Luther King Jr. said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? You can't go through life. You leave here and you graduate later down in the year, and you just keep thinking, me, me, me. When I graduate, I want to buy a big car. When I start earning big money, I want to buy a big car. I want to help my mother get a big house. And you're just thinking of you. You must think and look outside of the box. Jump out and put yourself in a situation where other persons less fortunate than you are, especially the children and the elderly. Think about it. And I really want you to make this be a part of your objectives for moving forward, what your plans are when you leave school. Make sure that you say, I want to volunteer. Wherever you choose to go to volunteer, you know that this is what you want. You want to give back. And a lot of people are always saying, I want to give back to the society because I grew up with this, I grew up with that, and now I want to give back. But sometimes when they actually get the opportunity, they don't make well of it at all, you know? So I want you to think about what you want to do when you leave, what service organization you want to join. If you feel so inclined to join Kiwanis, you have Mr. James there who you can talk to. He's a Kiwanian. You can get my information and speak to me also because you want to serve. And I'm imploring you all to put this on your calendar that you want to serve. What are you going to do for others when you have graduated?